You're listening to 88.7 WLUW Chicago Sound Alliance, broadcasting from the campus of Loyola University. Next up is Live from the Heartland, featuring Michael James, Katy, Hogan, and Thom Clark. Today's show features conversations with John Arena and Jessica Simmons Jimenez. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
And we are back. I gave you the wrong title to that. That was Let Me Into Your Heart, just the way it sounded, right? From our Mary Lane. Our guests now are filmmaker Jessica Simmons Jimenez.
Oh, Ynez.
¿Cómo?
Jessica Ynez Simmons.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just keep reading things and they're the wrong things.
Yeah, well,
so
we got
sorry.
it wrong here.
Okay. Jessica, this is your second time on the show, and you have brought along with you your sound supervisor and co-producer, Collin Susich. Welcome to you both back to Live from the Heartland.
It's great to be back. It's nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So you are involved in the making of a movie about Mary Lane, who was also a guest on this show, right? A couple years ago, right? And with Jessica at the same time?
She was filming.
All right, that's right. We're in the film. I forgot to mention. Live from the Heartland's in the film. You have a screening in Skokie on March 24th. Talk about the release of this movie and what it means to you that it's out.
Yes, of course. For me, moving forward and making the film, my biggest goal was that, because during the making of the film, which follows the creation of Travelin' Woman, the album that is being released, or it was released yesterday on International Women's Day. Wow. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And for me, the biggest goal was trying to find a label, someone who would, watch the film and think, wow, like this CD needs to, be out there and be in people's stereos, being heard by people because of how incredible it is. And so with the release, ended up coming an awesome new label, Women of the Blues, record label that put out the album. So to me, it's the biggest success in the world to have that come together. I'm so happy. And no one deserves it more than Mary Lane.
But you didn't start off to do a documentary about Mary Lane.
Nope.
What was the start of this trek?
So, I'm not from Chicago. I moved here for grad school at Northwestern, I think 5 or 6 years ago. And my aunt, who's a musician, she would always take me out with her friends, show me blues clubs, show me all kinds of places where they're playing music. And people would always talk about, the West Side scene and how a lot of the great clubs that, I was really curious about were, no longer around, like the Majestic, the 1815 Club. And I was
it's
really
so cool to hear someone so young just rattle off those names. That's so great.
Well, I was so interested in like that scene, and there was just something. I was so jealous that I couldn't like go to those places, and so I really wanted to do a retrospective and interview people while they were still around that were authority figures on this matter, and that could share their memories of these awesome places. And everyone was like, you got to talk to Mary Lane. And so I interviewed her strictly about West Side stuff, and we started talking about, her, what she's up to, and she was, embarking on creating her second album, and the first in over, 2 decades, 20 years. And there was just something so timely and so present and more urgent and in need of preservation that I thought that, she's here, she's now, I want to capture this. And I still think that West Side film needs to be made. But I did take a massive detour.
Go for it.
Collin is the sound guy in this thing. What challenges did this kind of a documentary present to you?
Well, most of the doc was shot in blues clubs and bars. And so with that, you get, a lot of room noise, fridges, crowd noises, and stuff like that. And so it was a bit of a challenge, trying to get the best sound quality out of the spaces that we were given. But I think it ended up really nice. And, it was, as a sound engineer, it was a pleasure to work on, to just be able to record some of these fantastic blues artists that Chicago has. And, I really couldn't think of a cooler project to work on.
Thanks.
At what point did someone nudge you and say, you should talk to Lynn Orman?
I think one of the first times we actually spoke or like had a real connection was when she's the one that invited me to the Live at the Heartland show that Mary was on 2 years ago, and was like, and I asked her if I could film, and she's like, oh yeah, yeah, come on down, and so she was always really supportive from the get-go, and so it was actually her who let us know about the show that was happening 2 years ago, which seems crazy now to think it was that long ago.
We shared space in
Yeah.
Northwestern.
Oh, and that's so crazy too. For the longest time, and we didn't even know it until we started working on the film together. But after I graduated from Northwestern, I started working there as their filmmaker in residence, and my office was right above the radio station there where Lynn has a blues show.
Right.
And so it was just like kind of like the universe pushing us
And
together.
Lynn's Blues Show on WNUR, just by the way, happens every
Sunday,
Sunday. Yeah.
3 to 5.
At what time?
3 to 5.
3 p.m. A perfect time for blues on Sunday. Indeed. So, what is your next project? Getting this film seen by as many people as possible?
Of course, yeah. So now, I would love for just Mary to be able to, enjoy the release of her CD. And I think that, the more people that watch the film, the more they'll know about this awesome record, one of a kind, that's not going to be able to be replicated because there's no one like her. And Jim Tullio, the producer, also did, an incredible job.
Jim's a great guy.
He's a good guy.
That, I just want people to know that the record's there, and if the film can be used in any way to kind of point people in that direction and point them into Mary's direction. That's my project now, and then I'm also working on hopefully a new project, getting it off the ground.
What kind of budget did you have for this film? I'm always curious, being someone who thinks they're going to make some movies.
I'm so glad you asked that, because most people
That's why I asked it.
when they see the camera equipment, they think, oh, she must have a budget. If it wasn't for Northwestern, I wouldn't have been able to make it. I don't own my own equipment. There was no budget.
Good use of the educational provided
Exactly.
materials, really.
Yeah, and all the teachers, faculty, staff there, very supportive. And so there was no budget. Everything is out of pocket. And it was...
So what'd you spend?
Well,
You don't know yet?
I'd be really sad if I kept track. No, I'm just kidding. Probably off the top of my head, it was an economical film because everyone who was involved, no one got paid to do anything. Colin, sound engineer, didn't get paid.
So we're looking at a couple poor people here.
Yeah, exactly. The other co-producers, Joao Quiroga and our producer, Justin Reifert, didn't get paid a dime. Anyone who filmed didn't get paid. The big thing that cost money is, trying to get the film out to film festivals, organize screenings. The color corrector, the editor, which was me, we didn't pay ourselves. So we're just trying to get it out.
Great accomplishment at your age. It's good that people do things for free when they're first starting out. It's one of the things that has been stolen from young people who leave college with $100,000 debt. They immediately have to find some kind of paying job, the likes of which I've never even seen or needed, in order to pay off debt rather than use their skills and young vitality to do projects like this and to dive in without thought about what they're going to make out of it other than your name on the credits. Colin, what's your next thing? Do you know?
I'm actually working on a couple podcasts this year. They're political audio dramas, which is really nice. They read like audiobooks, and they're really fun to work on. I believe the next project that I've got going right now will be done probably at the end of April. It's called Echo Protocol.
And what does that mean?
So
Who knows?
basically,
He's shaking his head, folks. He's like, I'm not sure yet.
It's very cool.
It's very relevant to the current state of politics, but it's a story that
Starts with the echo chamber and goes beyond.
Is it okay
Very
to give
cool.
the log line or?
Where did you guys grow up, and how did
Hey,
you
wait
get
a
into
minute.
film?
There's a question here.
The log line or the sum up of the podcast is so funny that I don't know. It's just. I don't know if he's allowed to talk about it because it's not out yet.
Oh, good.
yeah,
We should do this
it's
on-
unreleased. I'll leave it up to the
Unreleased.
listeners
Let
to
us know
figure
and
that
we'll
out.
plug it when it comes out.
Right. Speaking of the screenings, just let's mention the screenings, and then we'll go to Michael's question. Screenings at the Skokie Theater.
Yeah.
When?
On the 24th at 3 p.m. and there's going to be a performance by the No Static Blues Band with it, which is the best way to see the film is to see the film with a performance or with Mary there.
Absolutely.
As Lynn said, it's almost like she pops out of the screen to say hello.
That's very cool. So March 24th at the Skokie Theater. When else? March 25th at somewhere?
The Quarry.
Yeah, we're also slated to play at a few film festivals between now and then. We're playing at the Voices in Black and White Film Festival by the Women in Media New York organization, Hot Springs International Women's Film Festival.
Okay, none of our listeners are going to go to those. So
That's true.
We're going to let Michael ask you what he.
Well, I was just always curious with our guests, where did they come from, and how did you get into your field? Like you're doing sound, you're doing film. How did you end up here?
Ooh. Well, so we both grew up in California.
What part?
I'm from a town called Watsonville, California. It's in the...
We go through Watsonville all the time. Toward the artichoke capital of the world.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Heck
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's
Hey, our
great.
engineer's from California. We're very friendly with California.
Yeah, and so I was lucky enough that in my high school they did this like really interesting thing where they broke you up into majors, and it was either film or leadership or sports or something. I don't know. It was the one I didn't know I was interested in it. It just seemed the least boring, and then I just fell in love.
Far out.
So yeah. And then what about
Anything
you?
from you, Colin, on this?
Yeah,
1
so
minute?
I grew up in Redding, California, which is
up north.
way up north, near the Oregon
That's
border.
where Holly Near's from up there.
Yeah.
Near Mount Shasta.
And so I was a musician growing up, and I wanted to become a sound engineer, so I went to school to record music, but I ended up working on some films with Jess, and I ended up loving the work.
All
Well,
right.
we're glad you're doing it.
We are really happy you made it up here today. The CD release party tonight, we want to re-mention, is at Buddy Guy's Legends, and it's a screening as well. Nope,
No.
not
Just the
screening.
CD
Sorry,
release.
CD release. Just the CD release tonight, 10 p.m. at Buddy Guy's
For the Mary
Legends.
Lane album.
Right, for the Mary Lane, yes. for
And
the
we'll
Mary-
be going out listening to another piece from that album, Traveling Women. And we want to thank you for your success, and I hope many more festivals and screenings to come.
And more films.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Jessica, Ynez Simmons, and Collin Susich. Yes. We want to thank you for listening and invite you to come back again next week when our guests will be Marianne Lalonde, 46th Ward runoff winner, and we will have some Irish fiddling from Kelly, and Katy and William and Kelly, all of them. Oh my God. Listen to Do Good in the World. The world needs
Yeah, right
all
on.
the good that you do.
All power to the people.
All
All
power.
power to the people.